All right, welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. I have a layout here that's similar or the same as a couple of the previous Friday Night Lives. First scene right here, folded blue cardstock, pre-folded card. I like that composition so much that I tried this in a different color scheme, different season, time of day, etc. And I thought we would kind of explore this composition further with the use of kind of a winter toned scene and imagery. Okay, so I didn't add in any leafed overhanging tree branches like this one right here because I'm going to do a leafless one, and we'll have, instead of some reeds down here, we'll probably use the winter brush right here, leafless types of foliage, okay? All right, so I've pre-stamped all this out and I've heat set it a little bit, but I'm probably going to be getting a little bit of smearing. I probably should have, anticipated this piece right here and stamped out the composition, I don't know, whatever, yesterday, just so it has a little bit more chance to dry, but we'll go with it. And if I get a little bit of smearing, in the end, it really shouldn't matter too much. Hello, Debbie. How are you? All right, so Debbie, let's see here. We're going to use some of the blue tones in here. I'm going to do this as a daytime type of setting because I don't want it to look, well, I don't know, it would look different because we're doing this one on a white semi-gloss cardstock here, but I don't want it to look like a winter scene like this one, or I don't know if this is winter, but it's just more blue midnight type of thing. But so what I'm saying is, if this was a midnight type of scene, I would do everything in kind of blue tones. But I want warmth in cool, so we're going to have these tree trunks as brown amidst kind of a cooler setting here. Okay, so hello, Bonnie. How are you? Let's see. Let's do some sky figures up here because we have a lot of open space here. And I thought I would do the same cloud alto cumulus. It's a really good textural stamp for just a general type of sky. You can have it with warm tones, with cool tones, with blues for whatever, midday or whatever you want. In any kind of color scheme. All right, so let's do this here too. Let's transition this a little bit off the bottom here. So I wiped off some of that ink so it stamps out a little bit lighter. I'm just going to stamp this right in here like so, and I'm going right over some of those trees down there. If I do, the trees are going to get colored anyway, and by wiping off some of the bottom, where it goes into the trees, it'll be a lighter version of it, so this way I don't have to do any masking for that area down there. I did mask off my tree trunks a little bit. Oops, I missed right there. This paper is all kind of, I don't know if you can tell, it's really warped now from the heat setting that I just did. So this is a texture stamp, so I'm just going to take it like this. And let's see, we'll ink up right here, right there. And I'll just go into this again, right in here. All right, and let's do the same over here. We'll continue this in that general angle here. I kind of angle it a little bit like that just to make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I angle my sky figures all the time, so maybe I should do it just horizontal, and maybe for me that would be a little bit different. Hello, Candy. It's 8:15 and 94. Well, we'll have a nice, cool, snowy winter scene for you that's, 45. Or how about instead of 94, it's 49 degrees. How about that? 49, but pleasant outside because it's going to be sunny, so you can walk outside still, you know, like in a t-shirt or something like that. Okay, you know what I'm doing? I'm stamping over the top of this is bent right here, and then this paper towel, I probably should have it like over here a little bit more. So let's do that. Let's stamp that again here. I really warped this paper here when heat setting. All right, there we go. You can layer it with, you know, however much you want, like that. And then we're going to put streaks of color across in there. All right. But that is pretty hot there, Bonnie. And of course, you know, it matters if it's humid too. That makes it even worse, huh? I forget what they call that in let's see, heat, middle, it's all that that moisture coming into contact with the body. I forgot what they call that. What do they call that? You know, that cold and heat transference, you know, with I'm trying to think of what it is in diving. Anyways, never mind. I'm just rambling on. Okay, so we have that in the background. Let's lay down some tones in here. Okay, so for me, I was kind of thinking about, I'm going to lay down some warm tones on these tree trunks here. If you just joined in, this is going to be kind of a daytime winter scene, as opposed to all night or something like that, where everything's kind of the same mono value, or mono hue, monocolor. So I'm just wondering if I should lay down a little bit of a warm tone under everything, or you know, or should I keep them separate, or have like a little bit of tone underneath some things. I'm gonna go with the Peach Bellini. This just happens to be out on my desk here. And it's a good base coat for warm tones, but it's also very, very pale in value because it was kind of designed as a shadow stamping ink, meaning you stamp something out in probably black on a white piece of paper, then you clean it off and stamp it out again in one of these shadow stamp inking colors that's like really, really pale, so it looks like it has like a drop shadow on it. Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Mark. Oh, Mark, I forgot to look up that, what was that type of tree? I forgot what that was after that video the other day. Hello, Art Cards with AJ. Jeannie, hello. Seal, good to see ya. Into the upper 70 heat with the humidity. Oh my gosh. That's hot there, Bonnie. It sounds like AC weather, huh? So it's like already into the night for Bonnie. It was 94 degrees for her. If you just jumped on, we're going to stamp a scene out that is instead 49 degrees. To cool her down. Because it's still hot, you know. The temperatures are still warm. Oops. I kind of took some of that color right off the sides, like right down in here. Okay, so I'm going to use this as a base coat for some of these other areas that are going to be more bluish in tinge, but this is a fairly light value here. I'm picking up some of that black right there. And, but this is one of the things that you do kind of in a, like in a oil painting, no matter what color scheme you're doing. They often suggest, I don't know, at least to students, you kind of give a little bit of a wash of something down before you start painting on them, just to give yourself a nice kind of base undercoat for whatever you end up painting, because anything that you paint over the top of it, even if it's in a different kind of color scheme, you'll still have this universal base that'll kind of unify things. And if it's in a warm tone, it kind of, there's a certain warmth to it, even in cool color schemes, okay? So if you have a real light tone, I always mention this, like that. This is a Ranger Industries, which is the same as like Distress Inks and stuff like that. But in the Distress Ink colors, which are much more popular than Adirondack Lights and Seashell colors, that was a line of colors that they had, especially before they, like Tim Holtz was like a really big name and product developer for them. But it's the same type of thing. So in the Distress Inks, if you have like an antique linen or an old paper, those are really good base colors because they're really kind of pale. They're a little bit dull because they're supposed to look aged. And they're, they're nice and light, but warm. Okay, so if you have some of those, if you do the dye-based ink technique, it's a good way to start. All right, still at work. Oh, you're still at work, huh, Jeannie? Yeah, I guess, 5:30, huh? Let's see. Condensation. No, there's this thing with temperatures. It's when you conducts. I'm thinking of conducts. So when it's like moisture, it's like water conducts heat or cold, at a certain rate more than like air. But so if the air is really, thick with moisture and humid, you're going to feel a lot hotter in that environment because of the that moisture and how it conducts heat. So that's why they said, instead of like a dry heat, right? I learned that in diving because I didn't know all these things, these concepts and things like that. So they're saying, hey, we're diving in like 80-degree water, why do you get so cold? Well, it's because it's in contact with your skin, it's conducting heat so much faster, or cold, temperature. All right, so let's start adding in some blue tones. Okay, do you guys see how kind of sloppy and kind of, whatever, not good this looks like now? It's, you know what I mean? It's a real sloppy kind of application, especially down here. It looks really bad. But you just kind of build up your tones, so I don't know. I always kind of work this way, but I don't know, sometimes, if I haven't done something for a while, it's like, okay, I know in concept the way this is supposed to work out, but is it going to? And I have to say, it always does in the end. I just kind of stick to my whatever sequencing and process and technique, and I have faith in the technique, but sometimes it looks a little bit ugly as you're going into it. Okay, this is some light blue, and again, it's kind of mixing again with my impressions that I just stamped out right before I came on here. And I did heat set them, but there's a lot of ink on them, all right, still on the surface. So it's like I am kind of smearing these out a little bit. But let's go in and add that in anyway, and then we'll define everything later when I get into the midtones, like this Bahama blue here. It'll be more of like it's a daytime type of thing, but it's more of like a, kind of overcast, wintry day. I don't know. I just put that blue on here. I forgot that I was going with the brown tones on that. Okay, but again, you know, what I've mentioned in the past in other videos. If you start off with your really light tones like this, you know, it's really just an incremental process in terms of additions. So if you're starting this low, that little blue in there, it's not going to really be any big deal by the time I add in these mid-tones and darker tones like that. Larch, yeah, what was that now, Mark? That was Larch Madness or something that you said, to, or like to look up. Conduction, yeah. I took this scuba diving class for PE in college, and man, that was really fun, but that was probably a mistake. It costs so much money diving, you know, especially when you don't have the equipment. You have to rent everything all the time. But that teacher, my teacher for that class was the dive inspector for the county of Los Angeles. So anytime there was a diving death, he had to go, and he was the one that was called out to go and make a report on it. So he was really, really, you know, pretty strict about, you know, what we were to know and learn. So he went off like the Navy standards, as opposed to like the standard certification for like you know, whatever, civilian divers. What was it, Patty and Nowie National? There's a couple different standards, but he went off the Navy ones. And this is just an elective PE class, so I don't know. We had to study. All right, so here comes the brown in here, like that. You're going to wear out your air from April to October, all the way to October, huh, Bonnie? Best place to live for great hair is Vegas. That dry heat there, huh, Candy? When I do get into dry heat, I do kind of like it, you know. Like I said in past videos, I've done a lot of my favorite type of camping and hiking is desert, you know, camping and hiking. I do like high elevation hiking too, in the mountains. You would think that trees would be a beautiful place like this, right? And I do like hiking in some areas like that, but I like hiking to elevations where you can see over it. But when you're hiking through like a grove of trees and pine trees and things like that, they're blocking all the view. So you might go on you know, whatever, 5-mile, 10-mile hike. And if it's in a forested area, it looks all the same because, you know what I mean? You can't see anything. So I like going to areas like I said, high elevation where there's less trees so that you can get a really great views and vantage points like that. And in the desert, you know, you can see, you know, you're not obstructed from these grand vistas all the time. But, you know, I was usually hiking in places like this during the summer times and at high elevation because it's just too hot, you know, to go anywhere else. But then when there's a lot of water, I'm always getting bitten by mosquitoes. What is it, mosquitoes and horseflies? They drive me nuts. Some people, they don't bother, but I don't know. The bugs like me, or my blood, or whatever. All right, so that's my first brown right there. I really needed to add that in so I wouldn't forget it and go over it with like a darker blue or something like that. Okay, so if I didn't mention, this is on semi-gloss cardstock, so I'll be able to alter this or enhance it with colored pencils if I want to. Let's see, Jeannie, is it going to be 100 degrees up your way? I think our hottest day down here in San Diego is today, or just in Southern California in general. But then hot, you know, still just kind of getting a little bit cooler. Hello, Jennifer. How are you? Larch Madness in Alberta. I got to check that out. Yeah. I'll definitely check it out this time. When I saw your name, it was like, oh, yeah. Got to check that out. All right. So I stamped out that color up there in Bahama Blue. And I'll add in some of those tones. So it's going to be down here in this snowy area. I'll add some down here. I'll add it into those, you know, those trees. Well, I don't know if I'll add it into those trees, actually. No, because that would be a midnight type of, nighttime type of scene. All right, let's see what we can do with the blue here. Quit babbling on here. Okay, I'm not going to use this one. Looks like a tie-dye. Let me see. I'm going to dip into my Marvy pads too, especially for my blue tones. Let's get into these colors right here. Caribbean blue, which is a little bit of a warmer blue. I typically used these three blues for 25 years. I don't know, something like that. And then Caribbean blue with Marvy didn't come out till, I don't know, sometime later. So it wasn't in my kit that I always took around. So I didn't really use it too much, but I really came to really love the warmer type of blue. You know, like an aqua blue or something like that. Just having a little bit of that temperature change in there. I thought woke up some of my blue-toned color schemes. He was a cop in the Marine unit. That's interesting, Jennifer. Job of diving on the airplane wreck TWA Flight 800. Wow. That's interesting. I wonder what depth that was at then. Or was it in slightly shallower waters? Yeah, crazy. So this, this diving instructor of ours, he said that the vast majority of all the accidents, or maybe not the accidents, but the deaths, he said that they could almost have, they weren't attributed to, but they could have been prevented or, you know, vastly helped by diving, you know, with the buddy system. So he was really big on, you know, the buddy system. And he said, yeah, you know, when he goes out on all these things, you know, a lot of these types of situations, the diver was diving on their own, you know. Or sometimes the thing that made it worse was if like 4 people are diving together instead of one-on-one, because when you're one-on-one, you're really looking out for someone. And in like a group of multiple people, you know what I mean? You just kind of figure, okay, if you don't see someone right next to you, you figure, oh, well, someone, you know, they probably know where they are or something like that, you know. Or, you know, everyone else isn't getting alarmed by it, so. And they don't, you know, they just didn't check on someone, so. That was another problem there. If you just joined in, you don't know what we're talking about. Here's there was a dive accident right in that lake right there. Not really. All right, a little bit of bluish tinge right in here, like that. It's not a real clean application of it right there, but I'll clean it up with the colored pencils in here. I need to get up to the redwood forest, Jennifer. There were some redwoods in Yosemite, but I never went to that grove up there. But I need to get back up to like Northern California. I was there as a kid, but have never returned to that, you know, that area. But yeah, I need to go see those. So the tallest living things in the world are the giant redwoods, right? And that's in California. Tallest living thing in the world, or one of those. But then there's also the oldest living thing in the world are these bristlecone pines, right in the kind of the eastern Sierra area. And I just went there a couple of years ago. I took my son there and a couple of his friends. Hardly anyone there, too. I think we were on the trail, and I don't know. I think we saw one other, you know, grouping of people. All right. We're definitely getting into a later time of day the darker I get up here. It's not high noon anymore. Okay, so what I'm doing right down here is I'm creating a shadow that's going to be cast by this tree trunk, like that. Here it is, casting its shadow in the daytime like that. And we want it nice and, you know what I mean, like shimmery in the snow down here, so that's what the paint pens are going to do. So sometimes for me, the thing that I'm always kind of contemplating when I'm doing this and trying to figure out how much color to add down here is like, I want it to be light, okay? Because I want there to be light, in this case, reflecting off the snow, so I can't make it too dark. But on the other hand, you know, by the time I'm kind of adding in these types of things where I want the snow to be kind of shimmery, if I don't color it in and I just go white over white, you're not going to be able to see that shimmer. So, you know, the question that I'm always kind of thinking about and kind of guessing, you know, is how much ink to lay down here where it still looks like light is hitting it, but I can add in those extra touches and add that shimmer and sparkly quality that, you know, really brings the whole piece to life. So the answer might be different on any given day. You know, I might go darker or lighter one day to the next or whatever, you know what I mean? Just because I kind of forget what to, you know, how much I've done in the past or something like that. I don't know. It might be good, you know, so that you're always kind of doing something a little bit different maybe, instead of coming up with the same results. So, I don't know. So, you know, having a really bad memory helps your art. I don't know if it really does that. It probably helps with variation, though. All right, so we're going a little bit deeper right down here. This ink, these Memento inks, you know, you can really add them in here, and they're not very dark, even though they look like they might be, you know, of a decent medium tone value. I find that they're generally lighter than what they look like on the cover. So let's see. I'm a setter magnet. hello, Patty. We camped in Northern Cal as a kid. Oh, you're right, right. Yeah, I got to get back up there. I did teach classes in Redding, California, but I really need to get out to like the coast up there. I think that's where like Redwood National Park is, right? It's like on the coast right up there in Northern Cal. Sometimes I get confused. I kind of forgot, you know. I mean, I know where it is now, but I used to kind of get confused between like Redwood National Park and Sequoia National Park. All right, let's go with, I think this one's a little bit, yeah, this one's going to be lighter than this one. So I'm just kind of working through a value scheme in both brown tones for the trees and then blue tones, you know, basically for the sky and surface down here. All right, so this is looking really blotchy again. See, everything's really blotchy, and this is where a lot of people get kind of discouraged. Like, oh my God, that didn't, you know, how's he blending it so smooth? Well, it, you know, it looks smooth in kind of the end result, but it goes through this kind of blotchy kind of period in here, which, you know, the other types of colors and things like that, you know, kind of remedy as you work on it. So it's kind of like I don't know if we kind of used like a visual metaphor or something like that. It's like in trying to achieve something, my progress, you know, or my whatever process is more like a ramp than like steps where you're taking, you know, you're kind of making a big step at any given time. It's just kind of slowly rolling up, you know, or whatever along. It's when people kind of these big jumps or something like that, leaps in order to get, you know, to a certain point. You can do that, but it can be a little bit more of a precarious type of exercise. You know what I mean? But you can do that. You can kind of expedite the entire process, you know, and you know, maybe, but it, you know, but the blending and everything would have to be a little bit more spot on, which you can do, you know, with more practice or something like that. But like, you know, I haven't been doing this, and I'm also doing this too these days on the semi-gloss cardstock. So it's really kind of, my inks are really absorbing into the paper a lot faster. Where if you do it on glossy, it kind of glides on the surface a little bit easier and more. I kind of get, you know, I kind of get the feel of it though as I'm doing this. And again, I just kind of, you know, whatever. I have faith in the technique and kind of more specifically sequencing. You know, when you get to the end, you know, steps. You know, with some additional foreground and paint pens, pigmenting. You know, in this technique right here with the, you know, the dye-based inks right here. You see all kinds of different things, like this little loopy kind of thing right here is kind of developing right there, so I kind of just go with it. I didn't kind of think about that beforehand, but I just start blending in, and if I see some types of patterns starting to develop, I kind of just stick with it, or I go with it, you know. Okay, so I'm going a little bit more tone up here because I want to put in like some like patchy snow up here with some paint pen, but so I need to kind of color it a little bit. Well, it was maybe a little bit too much, but you color it so that when you add that white on there, it'll show up. Okay. Let's see. It's a pretty bright tone though. Huh? This one's the Caribbean blue. Does anyone go to any national parks or anything like that? Or has that been more of a, you know, past type of thing, you know, where, whatever, you took the kids or something like that? In Queen Charlotte Island in BC, town square dance floor is a stump of a huge tree. That's insane. Yeah, it's amazing when you see those old photographs of these, I don't know, whatever what is that, diameter trees. It's really amazing. So I think when we went to that Redwood National Park, I think that's where that tree is, where you can drive like through it, it's like hollowed out or something like that, and that was like in the early 70s. So I don't I don't know what time, but I don't think that road just goes right through that tree anymore, unless it does. I don't know. But yeah, a whole dance floor, huh? All right. So there we go, like that. I think, we're starting to see it come into focus here a little bit more with this nice bright blue. Let's try this blue. This blue right here is a Marvy light blue, and it looks really similar to the Bahama blue, but it's a lot brighter of a tone here. Something like that right there. I don't know, you might see, hey, that's not that bright. It's brighter, it's not lighter, though. Okay. But see that intensity right there? And you can kind of compare it to, like, right up here. That's the Memento. That's the like the Ranger inks up there. And that's the Marvy inks. It doesn't make Marvy better because I like to have a little bit of combination. I want everything, like, super, super, super bright and hot looking. You want the more mellow tones, especially like in scenic stamping. They come in, handy to have kind of mellow areas, soft areas, as well as the bright to, kind of play against, one another, or to, whatever, harmonize and to get a full intensity range. Right, looks pretty good like that. Coming around a little bit. I'm kind of taking my time right here because I'm not quite sure what tree color I should do in there. I think I'm gonna do it like these, though. I like that kind of yellow, and I think that yellow would look good in this scenario. Or we could go with red. I need to look up that Larch Madness, huh, Mark, to get some reference here. Yeah, I'm not into the bears, Jennifer. It's funny, I was reading this story on a Yosemite National Park a few years ago, and it was talking about in Yosemite during a certain year, it said there was a crime wave of sorts in going on in Yosemite, and it was just talking about how all the bears were, basically, there was like 400 break-ins of cars, and it was just the bears going for food, and I don't know, like backpacking and stuff like that. I always found it a hassle to. They always have the bear canisters there now, or the bear things, the bear lockers. Where you put your food into a locker. When you're camping or backpacking. And I never went like backpacking in anywhere where you had to kind of do that thing where you're using that. You bring in like a rope, and you're using this pulley system to pull your food up, or into it's like high in the trees or hanging off of a branch. Not having to do that out in like Joshua Tree, Death Valley. But in that article, it was talking about those bears breaking into all those cars, you know. And they said that if you have, and they put it this way, they said that if you have like a pack of chewing, or like a chewing gum wrapper in your glove compartment, a bear can smell that, you know, with no problem through closed windows and everything like that. So if they smelled anything like that, they're, you know, busting in all those cars. Okay, I'm going with more of this brown right here because I think I was using this brown over the, you know, the same kind of little paper towel that I had my peach Bellini on. So it was a really kind of dull brown right there. So I'm using some of this. If I have a re-inker brown right here, handy. Oh, I got lucky. Here, let's ditch the pad right here, although I should probably re-ink the pad while I'm at it. And let's do this. This is going to make our lives so much easier here. Let's just put a couple drops like that. You can see it right there in that center. And that'll make our coloring life so much easier like this. There we go. That's much more indicative of that color there for sure. And then we're going to tone it. It's mono value right now, but we're going to add some darker versions of it. I'm surprised that really grabbed all that color. I don't know if you can see it right there. That it looks a little bit three-dimensional. I think it's because it's kind of warping on me because it's got so much ink in it. But the semi-gloss is grabbing the ink pretty fast. Yellowstone. My sister went to Yellowstone a couple years ago, and she asked me if I wanted to go, but I didn't. I was just too busy, but that's an area that I wouldn't mind seeing, but I don't like crowds too much in national parks, so I tend to stay away. I'd love go there in the off season though. It's like Yosemite these days. It's so crowded. You have to get like this reservation system just to even drive through it. All right, so we have that, and let's keep with this one right here. And let's go with the dark brown right here. That looks black, but this is dark brown. Okay. Oh, this dark brown pad is pretty moist, which is good. All right, but let's do this. I'll add a lot of it on this side right here, and then I'll kind of use a little bit of a lighter touch right here. And this is also getting a little bit dry because I applied it here on this right side first, and then I'm coming in here, and I'm using a little bit less pressure, and I'll just go to right here so that this is darker on this side of the tree and lighter on the interior, and I'll do the same thing right here. So I'll go a little bit, or I don't know, whatever, a little bit darker right here. I'm using a little bit less pressure. Paper towel's getting a little bit drier too, like that. And go a little bit more down below so that it anchors the trunk, like that. Trying to build up a little bit more down at the base so that you get this nice, you know, kind of a little bit more of a rounded looking trunk where it's darker here, lighter here, dark to light like this. Now we have this one in the center, so I mean, you can have a little bit of light coming from both sides, or you can light it on one side a little bit more. I think what I'm doing is I go a little bit darker kind of on one side. I favor one side like that, okay? But then I do leave a little bit of lighting on the side like that. That's a little trick they do in like movie lighting, especially on people's faces. When you see someone's face, you often see, if it's like a nighttime type of situation or a darker kind of setting, they have their light, like a red light kind of coming from this side, and then there's like a white or warm light coming from the other side, and that makes things look a little bit more rounded that way. More three-dimensional. Now, I'm not using different colored lighting in here, but I am leaving a little bit of illumination on both sides of this thing right here. But now these ones, I'm much more favoring the interiors here. Okay, and let's see. I should kind of bring everything into focus a little bit more together, but since this is kind of moist right here, and my trees are kind of moist, while they're a little bit more moist, I'm going to add in my black here. Let's see, where's Boo Boo? That sounds like my place to go explore, Mark. Prehistoric size things. That whole Pacific Northwest, I have a lot of relatives, like my whole dad's side of the family was up in the Seattle area, and they used to go during certain types of the year, like mushroom hunting, which always sounded really cool to me. All right, this is black, and we'll kind of reinforce this idea of kind of interior lighting. And it's the same tone that I stamped out my trunks in. Everything was stamped out in black, so we're finishing off the toning and shading with that same color. But again, I like to transition it, going from more on one side and, you transition it to light on the other side. About like that. Okay. And see, when you do that too, when you get that interior lighting like that, if it's darker on the outside edges and lighter in the interior like that, it draws the viewers in more towards the light like that. Alright, now this one right here is getting a little bit dark, so why don't I just kind of anchor it a little bit more at the base and see what it looks like, and if I want to go darker, I'll go darker, okay? Alright, so we got that right there. So this one's kind of transitioning right to left and left to right as far as the darkness goes, and this one's more like bottom to top like that. Let me see, let me do a little bit from up top too, because I'm going to put in some like bare kind of hanging branches up there too, like that. All right. So our trees' trunks are fairly well rendered. I'm glad I found that re-inker. Look how reddish that tinge is right there, and I'm wondering why that one is a little bit duller, unless I used less of the that brown ink in there or something. I don't know, but they look a little bit different. All right, let's go into our next tone of blue. I'm kind of debating on whether or not I want to use like dye-based ink blue down here, or just going with the colored pencils. I have a little bit more control probably with the colored pencils. Let's see. My dad's ranch, I watched a mom bear and two cubs laying in some grass pulling bushes of Oregon grapes, stripping them from the... That's interesting. That's pretty cool. What's interesting these days is, I don't know about interesting, but you see these videos of like neighborhoods, like in Southern California, with like bears going in and especially into people's like swimming pools. Maybe it's because I don't know, everyone's got cameras and video recorders and all that stuff, so you see it more often. But I don't know, losing habitat, of course, too. But I was just looking at this video of this bear in these guys' backyard. It was just like a couple days ago I was watching this video, but it jumps onto the like the inflatable little mattress, like a pool, chair, and it's like kicking back on that thing, like floating on it. Not a real huge bear, of course, but it just seemed interesting that it was like, getting on it like a kid and just going into the water and just kind of laying there on it, not for too long, but he was just chilling on the the inflatable. And there's this other video on here on YouTube somewhere. I think it was in California. It's this one, I don't know what she was, like a teenage girl or something like that. This bear's got her, I think, dog or something like that. So she runs out there to save the, the dog, out of the mouth of the bear or something. I think the bear had it. It was a small dog, but the dog's going out there yapping away. Kind of trying to protect his territory or whatever. All right, there we go, like that. So this tree is kind of casting its shadow in there, like so. The Marvy blue is a pretty dark blue, and it's a thin blue, so it really transfers onto that page down there, or paper. And let's use a little bit more of that black, okay? So we use the black on the trunk right here, and I'll try to use some of this black in transition from dark to lighter down this way, okay? And let's use the same, whatever, paper towel, rag, applicator like this. See, I'm kind of coming up in here too. It doesn't read as blue just because, this is like a bluish black, but... And I'm just taking this nice and slowly down this way. So I'm concentrating it a little bit more, in that first area. And then again, it's, we've transferred over a lot of ink. So what I'm doing right now is I'm adding in, see, it's like a 2% version of, black now. So it's really safe to use in these areas. I go, whatever, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10%, you know what I mean? Like a really light value. And then you can adjust your pressure here like this. It gets a little bit more precarious the wetter it is because it's leaving a stronger mark. So if you just kind of go with that version of some color, then you can really apply it down here and apply a much more graceful type of application because you're hardly applying anything at any given, one stroke or something like that. The biggest thing is, if you first start doing this, you might kind of not see anything developing, or it's just so subtle of a change, you wonder if you're applying anything. So that's when some people go like this, and they go with like a lot of ink, and then they just go straight in there like that. But, just, test it and see on a, scratch paper and just see if you're still applying anything, if you can't kind of, decipher visually if anything's being, transferred like that. Okay. Yeah, you'll know it, if you do this a bit. Maybe it gets like a 3% darker or something like that with, takes 20 strokes just to get like slightly darker, okay? But you'll get attuned to it. You'll get much more sensitive to it, and you'll be able to recognize that. So see this a little black down here. Look at that. Kind of got a little bit darker like that. It's kind of turning the object a little bit more from a three-dimensional standpoint. I'm adding more now because it's getting drier on here. As this dries, it's going to accept my ink a little bit easier. Because when you're going wet into wet, it's not, it's not transferring because, the page is kind of getting a little bit super saturated, so it's not grabbing it. So you just let it dry a little bit, and you can go on with more like that. And, I don't know, whatever. It's a little bit more dramatic or whatnot, like that. Okay, let's see. All right, so there you go. Fun with paper towels. Let's see. I'm reading your comments here. I saw that Beaver Lake there. Yeah, I was wondering, are there beavers on the lake? There probably were beavers on that lake, right? 500-mile shoreline, man-made, but we have beavers. Beavers, they're starting to kind of realize more and more. I'm sure they did, but it seems like more and more just the importance of beavers to areas that are, prone to like fire damage, and just areas that had beavers in them. Just they were able to stand up against the fires so much better because naturally the habitat is going to be much more kind of saturated with moisture. I think I were mentioning this in the past stream, but they have these beaver analogs, they call them. So they kind of create like a man-made beaver, or start to a beaver habitat themselves by running in these posts into the, like a running stream or something like that, and they kind of give a little bit of a head start. So if they do plant actual beavers there, they'll have a much better chance. They used to just plant them, and the beavers would get they were exposed, so they'd get attacked or whatever and eaten up. But so they start these beaver analogs. There's a bunch of videos on those on here on the YouTube, but it's pretty interesting seeing that. All right, so we're going to try the yellow here and go into the trees like so. Oh, that really woke it up, huh? The scene in general. Yeah, that sure helped. Having some color in there, just some brighter tones like that. All right, let's do that. And then let's do... okay, I was going to add in some colored pencil work, but I do have some of these other kind of wintry types of elements in here. I think I should do those right now, or do we do these in like StazOn over the top of the colored pencil? Because that's another option. Okay, I think I like the idea of the StazOn over the... okay, we've done that before. I'll do that. Because I can just do much more free kind of form application of colored pencil work, rather than going over... because colored pencils do show up over the top of impressions sometimes. So let's do this. I think it can be done either way, but Let's work it this way. All right, so a couple different versions of blue, like this. And I'll be able to get in much more kind of detailed areas, like in the shadows and things like that. When I was in college, I went camping with my boyfriend. I heard a noise outside the tent. He was shining the flashlight on it and started, a skunk. I've been watching too many like horror movies, and I thought you were gonna say, you shined a light and you were like face to face with like a bear. I was probably thinking that because I just watched a little segment of this movie that came out a couple years ago called Cocaine Bear, and I guess it was like semi based in some kind of real life event where these drug smugglers were dropping like bales of cocaine out of a plane that they would go and recover later, but or something like that, and some bear ate a bunch of it or something like that. All right, so there's some blues like that. And let's go in and add some of the shadow work down here. I was going to do this ice skater right down here, and so it would look like a frozen lake, but I should have stamped this texture, snow texture, like down here. I should have not had this top texture because there's not room for my little ice skater in there anymore. I'd have their head would be sticking up in this, and you wouldn't be able to see them really well. So this is where I'm doing a little bit of refinements, to the. It was kind of hard to get some kind of like smooth application of blue in there, just with that, paper towel, application like that. And because these two areas off to the side were of a different color scheme, so I'll just do a little bit of refinement with this. Or you can do, your alcohol inks too would be good for this. Oh, you went to the car, huh? Well, that skunk wasn't, the skunk wasn't cute. The alcohol inks and the um, colored pencils, work pretty good in conjunction with one another, I find. And again, the alcohol ink dries with a little bit of a different kind of textural pattern to it, but we'll just spray seal it afterwards, and it'll unify all, the different textures, basically the alcohol with everything else, as everything else kind of just merges in with one another. There's a little bit of brown, like that. I'll hit it on the cabin back here. Oh, that looks pretty good. I'm going to leave the top. I'm not quite sure what I'll do, but I don't know. Okay, I can't zoom in too far. It's going to go out of focus right here. But having that brown right back in there kind of helps to unify, or not unify, but harmonize the piece with each other. Okay, so this edge of this tree right here, where I didn't want to get too close, coloring with a, a paper towel. This is a good spot for the either the colored pencil or these pens, because I can get right on the a really specific edge of the tree trunk impression right here, like so. And this tone right here is kind of, it's a little bit, it's a pretty rich tone, so if you want to add it into other areas of the tree like that, you know, add it into the shadows if you want to, or something like that. And again, you just spray seal it and it will texturally unify a little bit more. So it's just kind of another layer of depth, within that hue. So you can see that, and that's the way it'll look too when it's dried. It dries kind of shiny like that, okay? But it'll be completely unified like that. So I like this warmth right here. Let's get a little bit more warmth on this one right here. All right, see that like that. That looks much better, doesn't it? All right. You're like seeing all the glare like that, and you're saying, wait a minute, no, that doesn't look better. But again, all those streaks were in this one right here. Actually, I wonder if I can kind of, maybe I should amp this one up. Now that I see this kind of this reddish brown, maybe I add a little bit more on here. So this is spray sealed, and you can add in another little bit of tone right over your spray sealant too. You can lock in layers. See, if I went with this color, like right in here, over the top of another alcohol ink, it will dissolve that alcohol ink. But if you seal it, you can add in another layer right over the top of the other layers underneath. So you can use like spray fixatives as like, just as a way to lock down your layers a little bit more. If you have a situation where adding additional layers of some sort of ink will put the other ones underneath there back into solution or smear them, okay? Yeah, but this looks better, I think, right here. Okay, so I'll need to spray seal that again because it's going to get a little streaky looking again. But see, that's a little bit of a warmer tinge right in there now. A little bit more textural too. All right. Here's a little bit of warm brown. I don't know if it's going to do anything. Yeah, I don't know. Shockingly, it does apply over the top of the alcohol ink. I thought the alcohol ink would seal it off too much, but I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of that warmth in there. Like that. Yeah. And texture from this pencil. Like that. Let's try to use some of this darker brown. And some of the shadows. Okay, that doesn't show up at all. Let's go to black here. Right here, and go in some of the detailed areas. Okay, this one right here, no, okay, I can see it in the lighter areas, but in the shadow areas, it almost looks like it's getting like lighter, where I want it to go darker. No, okay, I'm mistaken. Maybe it is, I don't know, it's kind of weird. It gets a little bit darker in some areas, but sometimes some of these areas, it looks like the black makes it lighter for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe this pencil had to get warmed up or something like that. Now it is looking like it's adding some nice shadow and tone in here. All right, and we'll add this down here. Casting a shadow. I'll kind of go on the interior of this shadow right here so that it transitions lighter out that way. Like that. Let's go brighter in those trees now. Let me use some more yellow here. And then let's go to the yellow colored pencil, I think. A skunk, I prefer a bear. I think I'd like the skunk better for me. Used to have skunks coming by the back porch of my house up in Los Angeles all the time. My house was kind of at the base of this place called the Whittier Hills area, where there's a lot of open space, so you get deer and raccoons and skunk coming by all the time. Coyotes too. And it was pretty cool because I'd see like deer coming around, especially like in this time of year. They'd come up and they'd lay down on this slope. It was like an undeveloped open area into this canyon area. And seasonally, you'd see these doe coming around every year with a new fawn. I only saw a buck once. All right, so a little bit more yellow like that, and I'm trying to think of the rooftop right back in there. Let's just go, I'm going to add a little bit of a bluish tinge on here, like it's some sort of reflective, semi-reflective, whatever, like a tin roof or something. I know it's not blue, but I just want to get a little bit of a tinge of some color on it, just so it's not so stark white. Like that. So maybe it's reflecting some of the colors of the sky. All right. Some of my favorite blues right here in colored pencil form. Aquamarine. That. When I put my hand down like this now, it's getting stuck on that. You know, that alcohol ink, that dried alcohol ink, you know how that gets. That. Starting to come together, though. I'm going to put a little bit of this tone. I saw someone do this on the Facebook posting, but in her window, what she did was she just colored, like, the top areas of the window, a little bit of, like, the colors of her sky, and I thought, oh, that looks great, you know. So I just put a little bit of blue, like on some of these windows, but I didn't do it all. I just kind of put it on the top kind of row of what do you call those, cells or lights on a window when you have the kind of grid on there. Think about like that. And I think that is it with our whatever dye-based alcohol and colored pencil coloring. Let's go in here now. I've grabbed a bunch of pens that I kind of anticipated probably using on here, but let's add in the yellow in here now too. Let's go with these right here as well, being that we know the colors of the trees now. My dog got us both sprayed. Oh, the tomato juice. I've seen that. You know what I was telling my, we were talking about this, I don't know, not too long ago, just the family and I, but I was saying, yeah, and a lot of those, like, 70s TV shows, you know, I don't know about a lot, but you know, it was probably on Lassie or something like that, and a couple other things. But people were always getting sprayed by skunks in these TV shows or movies, and they were always busting out that like gallon-sized can of tomato juice or tomatoes, whatever. Yeah, tomato. Was it juice or sauce or something? Yeah, tomato juice. Yeah. I don't know, maybe it was those movies or something like that. Did Old Yeller get, you know, hit by a skunk? I don't think Lassie did. All right, so adding in kind of a really bright, whatever, dot pattern, I guess, on these trees, kind of bringing them to life a little bit more. So if you watch the other video, you saw me do this and kind of what it does to that, you know, the colored portion of those trees in there, like that. All right. From a textural standpoint, it kind of stands out because they're the only elements in here that have this kind of raised dot pattern. I mean, it's kind of flat, but it is kind of raised up a little bit with a, you know, a dot of acrylic paint like that. Okay, so let's add it into some of these other areas. So down here is where I think this is going to be really important, right in this region right in here. I'm still wondering if I should stamp out my imagery now or if I should do it later. Let's just go in with these pens. The stays on ink in theory will stick to anything. Okay, so what I want to do right here is I want to transition some of these little textures going from light into this darker area here. So I'm just using the 3mm pens here. Looks like I haven't used this one in a while. There we go. All right. But the 3mm ones will get a little bit more coverage faster here. All right, so I'm coming in here and then opposite of shading, you're kind of coming in from the lighter areas and then transitioning that light in here by kind of a little bit of a wider gap in between those highlights in there, okay? I'm adding a little bit more than probably what looks ideal just on its own, but we're going to be layering in other imagery in this area and texture with the white pigment ink. Okay. Down here in this area right in here, we can do the same thing. A little bit on my rocks in here, kind of in the background like that. Right down in here, it looks a little bit extreme, but again, it's going to be buried under a couple more layers of things that are happening in there. And then this one's a little bit darker. I don't know. I might as well use it. I have this out. I'll use it in some of these darker areas, like right in here. So in the darker areas, a little bit of a darker highlight, or I don't know, whatever, just texture. Like about like that. Let me do something right in here too. Let me add a little bit more shadow right down in this area. Add a little bit of shadow with the alcohol inks, but let's refine that with a little bit more black or grayscale. About like so. All right. My sky looks a little feeble to me. I'm going to hit that with let's get a little bit of a kind of a pinkish violet tinge in there a little bit. Let me see. There's a beaver dam so large that it can be seen from space. That's interesting. Yeah, they're planting these beavers back in these other areas that were, you know, I think historically they were at, but they were just all removed at some point in time from, you know, fur traders, right? Hello, Darlene. How are you? A few years ago, we were sitting on the deck. And the flush, we could hear the flush, but it didn't stop. So I thought that was hiss. Oh, rattlesnake. Wow. The most, okay, so I'm going to add a little tinge of this violet. Can you see that violet right there? See, it's kind of looking a little anemic up here, when all these other areas are getting much more brighter, more textural, more exciting, you know? So you can do all kinds of things. You can add texture up in the sky, but just kind of tweaking, you know, the color scheme a little bit, like this, into a different hue. You know, it vastly, even though it's a very subtle area of it, you know, it was just one blue tone, and then you're moving it out into an analogous color, which is, you know, like a violet here, like this. So that adds a little bit of a kind of a color glow up there now. Yeah, that's much better. And it's really subtle, too. I mean, you can make it much more, you know, prominent and bright and things like that by adding, you know, a heavier application like that. But I'm just kind of keeping it light. Let's go with a little bit of pink in here too. I'll add some of that pink over some of the blues, and maybe it'll create a violet tinge in there. I'm not sure. Okay, let's see something like that. Now let's add a little bit of a hint of that down in the water too, if that's the type of color that's being cast onto the landscape. I'll add a little bit of that down here as well. Like about like that. It gives it a little bit more of a kind of a slight glow down here with that color. But recently on my driveway, underneath the car, I was dropping off my son at high school, and I drove back, and I was pulling up on the driveway, and I thought, what the heck is that? You know, this little shape, and then I got close to it. It's like, oh, that's a or a snake. And I got closer to it, and I was like, oh, that's a rattlesnake. But I posted a photo of it on Facebook, and I never had so many comments on any kind of a post, you know, that I've ever put up there. But everyone, you know, a lot of people had a reaction to the rattlesnake. a lot of people are just like cringing from the idea. But I just transferred it into a box, and I just took it across the street and let it go. It wasn't a gigantic one, though. So it was easy for me to kind of corral, and it was kind of cold in the morning, too. So I just kind of bumped him, not with my hand, but I got like a broomstick, and I just kind of nudged it into the box, and he just kind of crawled into the box. I need an ice skating bear stamp. That'd be interesting. Went down to, let's see, bears and snakes. I'm going to pass it. Yeah, a lot of people don't like the snakes there, I found from that post. A lot of people were saying stuff like, I would move. The only thing I'm a little bit scared of, bears don't really scare me in terms of, I haven't run into one out in the wild, but I would hate to run into mountain lion. Herds of deer in the backyard, and herds of ticks. Ticks are a bad thing. I didn't realize ticks and like Lyme disease were so present. I've heard of it, and you got to be careful about it and stuff like that. But here on Facebook, we were talking about it, or I might have been emailing someone, but okay, where did they live? Do they live in Tennessee or Georgia? But this one fellow stamper of ours, she was saying that I think she went through a bout of it, and then her daughter, and then it was like the son-in-law or something like that, ran into a bout of it too. It's like, oh my God, from her account, it seemed like, oh my God, that Lyme disease is like everywhere from ticks, at least in that area, for everyone to be catching it. And I'm not sure how much hiking she really does, I don't think they're, like, they're not like backpackers and stuff like that going out. I think the son-in-law was, though. Yeah, so I don't like mountain lion and ticks. All right. Adding in some highlights on my trees right here. Kind of making them seem a little bit more, three-dimensional, like that. Now let's go in, and this area down here, I mean, it doesn't look like snow to me. It's because of all that tone, but I was kind of anticipating the use of this white right here. So let's see if we can kind of really make this area down here shimmer in various areas, and maybe put some snow patches, I don't know, kind of coming up into these trees or something like that. I'm not sure. So I'm going to add quite a bit of this here. I don't know if it's like in the extreme, but a decent amount of it. It's going to get really too textural, but then we'll mellow it out a lot with the white pigment ink later on, okay? So I just want to develop some sort of like shimmery type of surface that's really reflective of a lot of light, like snow would be. Goes something like that. And then, I don't know if I want to use this 3mm on the other side of the lake. I better go with the just the 0.7mm, so I have a little bit more control over it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of ticks either, Mark. You ever get a tick? I've had to, I've caught ticks crawling on me where I'd flicked them out, but one time, I don't know, I didn't catch the tick in time, and it was like in my, I don't know if I embedded, but it was kind of grabbing my ankle. It was gross. That type of thing grosses me out. Google Osoyuz Penticton. I'm butchering that name. I gotta check out some of these things here, Mark. Yeah, I gotta make use of that Google searches here. You got a scorpion bit me on the back of the middle of the night. Oh my god. Inside the house, huh? When I'm out camping, one of the things that I do, if I have my shoes or something like that, I usually keep the shoes inside the, the tent or something like that. But that's one thing I'm a little bit paranoid about is scorpions kind of going into my like shoes or something like that, where you slip them on in the morning and you got one of those inside. Oh, one of the things about, so like Stampscape scenes, okay? One of the things that's good at Stampscape scenes, like if you ever stamp a scene out or whatever using them, it's guaranteed not to have, the types of pests and things and animals that you don't want in your environment. We should do that as a little thing on the website. Pest and undesirable whatever elements free of them. So see, for me, I can just hang out here all day. I don't need to worry about the what is that, DEET or whatever, the mosquito repellents and everything like that. It's a healthy ecosystem, but it's not in here. So there's no skunks for who didn't like the skunks, and who doesn't like the bear. Although we do stamp a lot of bears in our scenes, though, I think. I've never had a person ask me about a skunk, though. Hey, can you draw a skunk? Design a skunk? Although in the desert series now, there are, I do have the scorpion. All right, so a lot more dots in here. It's getting a little bit busy with the textures in here. But again, it'll mellow out a little bit, or a lot when we get to that step in here. And let's do some additions of the pigment ink in here now. I'm still tossing around the idea of maybe stamping out some of my... I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this in layers here. I think I'm going to do some of the imagery in here. Then I'll add in some white pigment ink, and then I'll go with some other foreground textures and images right over the top of it. So it'll be a little bit more layered like that. All right. So again, I was mentioning this earlier. I don't know, what's it been, like an hour? I was kind of contemplating whether or not I should add in all these other types of little shimmery touches of the colored pencil and stuff like that before or after I stamp in some of my initial, additional foreground elements in here. And I decided to do this later because I didn't want to have to work around certain things. But on the other hand, sometimes it's easier to stamp in these images in here without all this kind of texture and alcohol ink and colored pencil, the waxy colored pencil, it might be easier to get a cleaner impression when paper is much more flat, you know, than having all these little rays, little dots in here and things like that. So I don't know. Let's see how it goes. I guess I'm just masking off some of these areas a little bit just to layer this in. I might want some of this little brush behind the tree. Sometimes it's in front of the tree. Like that. Now see that in between there? Yeah, it didn't stamp out in some of the little grooves of the, you know, in between these little dots like that, because those dots are raised a little bit. Okay, let's mask this off right here. Like this. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I can see some of those little dots showing through, but it's not too obtrusive looking. All right, just to get some of that like that. It needs something on this other side of the tree, though, huh? So this one right here is kind of like in front of this tree, and let's put a little bit of it kind of coming out from the back of this, the other side, like this. That. Looks pretty good. Let's add some down here as well. I don't know if you can really see it. It's like dark and dark like that. Okay, we're just going to go with a couple little overhanging limbs like this. It doesn't necessarily match with these trees, but I just need some sort of a textural variation up there. I think I'm going to add in a little bit of like snowfall or something like that on these branches as well. It gives me an extra kind of element to do that type of thing. Yeah, what did you do, Candy, when you got that scorpion thing? Did you just, how did you treat it or whatever? Did it really get infected, you know, or did it, you know, become like inflamed or anything like that? Or go numb or something? That's what I thought about that tomato thing too. I thought I heard that later on. But that's what they are always doing, huh? They're always putting that dog in the bathtub and hitting it with the tomato juice. But I don't know. Maybe if they do it in the movies, it's got to be real, right? All right, so crooked limb up top there like that. Winter brush down below like that. The tree trunks are staying pretty bright, huh? You know, they're not like drying dull. They're going to be nice and unified when I spray seal this as well. Let me do something right here. I'm looking at this now too, and I think I can get a little bit more, whatever, gutsier and aggressive with some additional violet tone right there like that. I think that looks good. All right. White pigment ink. Okay, so if you watched me do either one of these other pieces right here, one of the things I mentioned about this kind of white pigment ink right in here, it kind of unifies things a little bit more from having a kind of a universal texture. It's in the background, it's on the trees, it's on the shoreline right here in front of the trees like that. So you're just bringing in another element, soft kind of lighting element into the scene like that. Background, midground, foreground like that. And plus, I like the look of it too, but it mellows out a lot of the super busy areas in here. But okay, so these trees right in here are really prominent, right? But the thing is that you get these really harsh angles like this. It's like a 90-degree angle right there, you know, 90-degree angle right there. So there's all these like sharp angles like that, okay? Now I might keep some of them, but I want to kind of just mellow some of them out a little bit from a visual standpoint. And all this really kind of busy kind of shimmer in there I want, but I don't want it so whatever, sharp and like a mono texture. Everything's like a really sharp in here, okay? So by adding some of this in, we're just gonna soften up some of the angles, some of the elements, some of the the details in here. All right, so let's see, white pigment ink. Okay. This one has some yellow on it. Here, let me get a new one. Okay, this one's kind of clean right here. I can't remember. I think I was thinking about re-inking this one. I don't know if I did. Let's see. Okay, this needs a re-inking right here. It's so dry. I kind of keep this on the drier side, but it has to have some ink in there. All right, where's my re-inker white? So where's this thing just outside? Free roaming peacocks. That's interesting. There was in the city that I grew up in, someone had like a peacock. And there was this one street that my friend lived on. This is Central California, and someone must have gotten it as a pet or something. I have no idea where you'd get a pet like that, but there was this peacock wandering around. There wasn't like a flock of them or anything like that, but just one. But I always found that fascinating. They must adapt pretty well, you know. I don't know. I guess it was, you know, big enough to where predators weren't bothering it, like coyotes. Yeah, there were probably bobcats. I don't know. It should probably. I don't know if it flew, but I guess it can just, you know, hang out at night in kind of like a higher area, like on a rooftop or something like that. Yeah, but that's interesting you mentioned that. Scorpions are weird, like tiny lobsters. Some people eat scorpions. Like in the South Pacific, I think, right? I've seen that on those travel channels, like it might have been on Bizarre Foods or like Anthony Bourdain or something like that. All right, so here we go. All right. So I'm going to add it in areas where there's a little bit of a lighter area to begin with. That. And let's add some at the, I don't know, the base of the shoreline water elements like that. Back up in here. Way early into this process, I was mentioning kind of the look of everything, about how my color blending was not perfect. And I pointed it out because it looked really bad. But this is where it all comes together, because, you know, you put it behind like this, you know, this mist and fog, and it all kind of looks, you know, pretty cool. And plus, it, you know, it just kind of eradicates any kind of, you know, poor technique in some ways. Okay, add some of it up in your sky area and kind of those lighter areas. You know, can't see too much of it because it's like white on a very light area. But yeah, it kind of adds to the look a little bit. All right. So it's looking really good right back up in here and right down here and right here. The thing is, you kind of oscillate it so there's a little bit like right over here, but it's nice and crisp in there where there's none. And then there's some right here. And I'm adding it up into these trees a little bit. Let's do something. Let's just kind of alter that tree in the background there a little bit. It's kind of a little bit dark down there to be doing it, but you can add a little bit in there like this. It kind of pushes back that tree in the distance a little bit, behind some fog or something like that. All right, now let's bring it into the foreground where all this kind of, you know, madness, textural madness is going on. So I'm kind of just creeping this little bit of fog around the tree trunk at the base. The bases like that. And I'm trying to transition it from a lighter tone, or I guess a little bit of a thicker application, to a thinner application. You kind of get the feel of it, but, you know, sometimes I add too much, and you just dab it off with your finger and it'll come right off. Or if you put too much and you hate it, you can just wipe it right off with a clean side of your cotton ball, or just get another cotton ball and wipe it right off. Okay, so my blending right here from dark to light, I mean, it was okay, but I can really refine it now by going from light to dark like that. Now look how smooth that looks. Boy, I sure did a good coloring job. Not really, though. It just looks that way because I've just used this right over the top of it, right? So look at this. Look at this. And I added a little bit too much texture in there with the, you know, the snow texture stamp. Okay, I'm adding a little bit too much right there, so we'll wipe some of it off like that. And then we'll do it again. Like that. See that kind of glow working across there like that? It looks more frosty, of course, because, you know, you're adding this white pigment ink over it. Like that. Look at that. That looks so much better, though, huh? It kind of, it really, really can refine things, you know, to a great extent. Let's add some over here, too. in that light right over here. All right. Okay, I'm looking at this right here. Let's get a little bit more gutsy and let's go a little bit more from bottom to, not top, but lower to higher like this. Removal, too much. Looks okay, I think. I got a little blotch right there. That. All right. Let's see. Let's come around here a little bit more too, I think. All right. Looks a little bit snowy right there now, I think. Let's put some of this back here in these trees too. I think that could potentially look decent. I'm adding more and more because I kind of like the look here. This got pretty heavy, so I can, I'm going a little bit heavier in the background. All right. So it looks like that. All right, and let's do, oh, okay. Almost forgot what I was going to do here. A little bit more of the white. I'm going to put these little, I don't know, whatever, little touches on these branches up here. Maybe I should go a little bit heavier up there too with some other type of branch. I don't know. I could go with some leaves. Or this is more of the, I don't know, whatever, first snowfall or something like that. Yeah, I'm going to layer this area up here a little bit more. All right, so I wanted those little touches like that up there. I mean, it looks weird, but we're going to add in some of the same branches that I've used in the other ones, so it might not make absolute visual sense, seasonal sense, but as long as it looks better, that's all that really matters. Okay, so I'm going to use the ArtFoamies leaves up there. I needed a stronger kind of framing device up here, up high. I'm going to use the, okay, so I can't use StazOn on this because it's a foam stamp, I think. I don't know, I think it would dry on there and, I don't know, it might not come off. So let's see here. Your tongue went numb. That's interesting, Candy, with the scorpion. Yeah, Jennifer. No, so none of those are in here, unless it's like Gentle Ben or something like that with the bears in this scene that we're stamping out right here. Yeah, otters. Yeah, they are adorable, huh? The otters, there's this one place that I really like, this state park in California called Point Lobos. And you can see the sea otters in every little cove up there, there's like these sea otters right out there. I guess that area used to be like just tons of sea otters, but yeah, super cute. Freshwater otter too, you know. People tend to like them. Except the South American Amazon ones. Oh, the natives fear them, huh? Yeah, there was something too that I was watching some kind of documentary on that. They don't hunt them. Um, they didn't hunt them or like the dolphin, right, in the Amazon or something like that. Yeah, no, I'm not young here. In fact, I'm kind of old to have a kid in high school. But yeah, he just graduated. I use both candy, both paint pen sizes. I have the .3 millimeter. I mean the 3 millimeter, and then the .7 millimeter, which are pretty much the two sizes that are out there as far as I can see. There's some packs that say 2 and 3 millimeter ones, but every single pen in there seems the same size to me, so I think it's the 3 millimeter. And with the paint pens, I have found that there is a difference in quality with the paint pens. Um, the paint pens that it's kind of crazy, but they're seemingly lower in quality in terms of the pigment to binder ratio. So in this case, it's pigment to water because acrylics are water based. But the ones that have a much brighter, thicker application, I found in this one pack that I have. Okay, I have about 4 different brands that I've used. I thought, oh my God, this is like so awesome because it was nice and beautiful and thick and rich. But I didn't use it for like 2 or 3 weeks and they all dried out on the tips. So it took me forever to get them kind of flowing again if I did. But then I knew that I was just going to have to do it all over again if I were to use them. Where the other ones were a little bit more watery, but they're never getting clogged up, you know? So it's like a little bit of a trade-off, you know, between one type and the other. Okay, I'm looking for something here. I'm going to add in a little bit more larger foreground in here. See, I like that look at that leaf up there with the bare branch leaf up there, the crooked limb. And then I have those little dots on there, little, you know, that brings that little bit of a shimmer aspect to that upper area. So it gave me kind of an excuse to use some of that. And I am going to use the reeds in here as well, down below. So we have some foreground elements that here that are kind of in that frosty mist. And then you just layer it again with some other additional foreground over the top of that, which will look like a, you know, a darker, closer foreground element. So again, you can layer things in the foregrounds like that. I mean, you can go extremes too if you want to. You can stamp something out. And then you can use an acrylic sealant and then just go with additional imagery too, that way. You know, if you wanted to use like a StazOn or something like that or whatever. All right, so anyways, I have like that. I'm trying to show it to you because right here you can still see those alcohol ink additions right in here in terms of the texture. But again, you just spray seal it and that'll all go away. It'll look like, you know, pretty much this right here. But again, here's a snowy kind of element to it. You know, as I say that, I want to go a little bit more. I want to put it, look at, you know, like there's another, like a dusting of snow on these branches. So I'm going to go with a little bit more white onto some of these like this. It's like the terrain got an early dusting of snow, and it, you know what I mean, where it burns off in like, you know, whatever, a few minutes or an hour after it stops snowing. That type of scenario here. So let's put a little bit more back up in here. It's kind of an excuse to add in a little bit of a lighter touch onto those, or whatever, lighter textural touch onto those background elements like that right in there. Okay, and on the rocks like that. Let's see. It's going like that. I was thinking about adding in some snow, you know, little patchy areas on these trunks right here, but I'm not going to do that. I think it would stand out kind of obtrusively a little bit. Think about like so. And let's do something too. You know, when it's you know, like there's like snow up in the limbs or something like that, and a little breeze comes by and it like drops some of that like snow dust or something like that down. Or I don't know if it doesn't do that, we're making it up right here. Or that's what it does in this scene right here. Let's take some of this and let's get a little bit of a spray pattern in there, just as another kind of textural element too. Let me see. Where did I put my... Here we go. I'm going to load up my toothbrush here, my little splatter painting toothbrush a little bit more. Because we have a lot of area here. I don't want a heavy application of this, but here we go. All right. Notice how I have this kind of off my page so I don't accident, because this is a little bit more paint than I usually have in here. So I don't want it to accidentally drip onto my scene in a, you know, like a big splatter. All right, there we go. Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White, good for stars, snow, and at the base of your waterfalls. Or if you're a calligrapher, it's what they all use in their calligraphy nibs and brush lettering in white on black usually, but it's that little dusting of everything like that. A little bit more of a textural continuity in there too. But we'll spray seal this, and that should unify things a little bit more. I'm looking for refinements. I don't know, I could go with a little bit of a darker tinge of color right back in there. I could add that in after these leaves dry with a little bit of a kind of a darker blue colored pencil like that. This area right here got a little muted from that drying. That'll become a little bit brighter though when I spray seal it as well. But I think that looks about where I want it to be for a different type of look here. on this scenario. This is really curling on me on the end because these two trunks on the edges there really got pretty saturated with inks like that. But there you have it there. A little bit of a cooler color scheme there for those of you that might be in kind of sweltering heat, or if not, maybe you just like kind of a cooler scene. Deer Meadow. You have tons of deer. That's cool, Candy. Yeah, the mountain lion. It makes me think of someone needs to come up with a like a mountain lion gear or something like that. I'm thinking like a heavy, real thick kind of like leather collar to put around our necks when we're going out and hiking or whatever in mountain lion country territory. I was looking at these things when I was really watching for videos on mountain lions when there were a couple of different attacks in Southern California. I was coming across a lot of or I don't, not a lot, but some videos up in like the British Columbia area. I think they interviewed this guy, I think that was attacked. But yeah, I don't like mountain lion. They will eat people. A couple of mountain bikers here in Southern California were attacked on this trail that's, you basically hike out of like a big shopping mart mini mall area into the chaparral out there, and place where, I don't know, hundreds of mountain bikers go every weekend. And this one lady was getting dragged out in the bushes, and this one guy, when they sent the trackers out there to look for that mountain lion, they came across this other guy that was missing since 1 week, and same mountain lion got him. Did back one about ticks and mosquitoes. I don't know. They probably had some sort of remedies for that, huh, Mark? They probably put some sort of like I don't know, some sort of oils or something like that on their skins, I would imagine, to protect against the sun damage too, things like that. Can you do human figures with this technique? In terms of layering colors or something like that? You could. It'd be harder to get into specifics, in terms of coloring, but you could. I mean, this type of technique right here is basically this concept in certain types of painting that they go by, which is thin to thick. Okay, so you lay down your thinner layers of stuff, and you basically work thicker and thicker, and then you're doing this technique called impasto, where maybe you're applying thick little raised three-dimensional layers of paint with your paintbrush, or even like a palette knife or something like that. Okay, so this was thin layers of dye-based inks. Then I worked into like alcohol inks, and things get a little bit thicker with like colored pencil, like wax. That's thicker. And then you were getting into acrylic paint. So I mentioned that these little acrylic paint additions are kind of like raised, right? And then, when we're talking about things like, this is a hybrid ink right here, but, this pigment ink right here, pigment inks to me are almost like thick paints in a way, and that's one of the thicker things where I wouldn't necessarily add like dye-based inks over the top of, pigment inks, because it's, thinner substance or something like that. And plus you'd be moving around and, dissolving all this pigment ink that's still sitting on the surface like that. So you can, I don't know what combination you'd want to do, but you'd probably have some pretty large forms that you'd be doing that on, like life drawing classes or something like that, and working at like 20 by 30 sketches or 30 by 40 pads of paper or something like that. That would be easier than to be dealing with media that, is more detail oriented like that, like even markers, like for a human figure or something like that. If you're doing a big thing, that's why they use chalks or pastels, stuff like that, when doing the human figure. But you can, though, I wouldn't use all these techniques in my sizes of figures, which are typically, like this. you know, really small like that. That'd be cool if we stamp this one. Now it's not totally out of the scale of that cabin back there, but I need to do more of like the giant redwoods or something like that type of scenarios with these tree trunks like this. But it's fun when you add down a little figure like this. It gives like, you know, like immense whatever grandeur to the scale of those trunks like that. But let's see. Ticks are bed bugs of the forest. Bed bugs are kind of nasty. I've never seen them before, but I see them all the time when I'm looking up like ads for places that you might be thinking about, you know, wanting to look for, like on these travel sites. I tend to think that a lot of those things are by competitors in the area posting, you know, oh, this place had bed bugs, you know. Glad you like it, Cecile. Yeah, they really give a scale to these pieces. So this piece right here is 7 inches tall, and like, you know, these tree trunks right here. So this one right here is like 9 inches tall. So I can do like full size pages. I do them a little bit smaller than 8.5 by 11 though, because if I want to mat this on something, I've got all my 8.5 different types of sizes of paper that I can put around the edge like that. So I cut them down a little bit smaller, but you can go like totally full size. Or if I was doing, I should do an 11 by 17 piece sometime of just this big, huge forest of whatever, sequoias and redwoods with these. But these would make, you know, short work of it in terms of at least the composition of it. I mean, there's a lot faster ways to color these types of things too. Like, you know, this is like the kitchen sink in here in terms of like the media that I tend to use. You know, this one right here. This one right here was a lot faster because all you're using is white and black media for it, like this. But, you know, if I wanted to do, again, going back to like really large scenes, like I wouldn't do 11 by 17 maybe, but like 10 by 10.5 by 16.5 or something like that, just so I can mat off on another piece of that 11 by 17. But, you know, these trees are so big and easy to stamp out. You can really come up with a pretty cool composition like that. So maybe I should do that sometime. I can't remember if I've done 11 by 17 with this one before or not. Or these ArtFoamies size trees. Survivor Man, yeah. We used to watch that all the time. He's over there. He's on. I think a lot of the episodes are here on YouTube too. But yeah, I used to watch Survivor Man all the time. This next door neighbor of this place where we used to live, my wife mentioned to him, "You remind me of Survivor Man," because he does all kinds of outdoor stuff and ice climbing and all that type of thing. Peacocks jump really high. Yeah. They used to roam freely at the zoos that we used to go to, the San Diego Zoo and the Wild Animal Park. They were just kind of walking free out there. So cool. Geese. We don't have geese around here. Best watchdogs ever. That's interesting. A goose stole my mom's diamond earring. What do you mean, off of her ear? Yeah, that's what I want to know. Yeah, it probably like went for it and yeah, swallowed it, right? Skunk recipe. Hydrogen peroxide baking soda. So bath. That makes sense. Yeah, the hydrogen peroxide, huh? Because it's got to be all like oils, right? In that spray. Now, how did you know that right offhand, Yawning Gray? Have you had to do that before? And do not store leftovers. Discard. Oh, because it's activated or something like that. Glad you like the scene, Yawning Greyhound. Floating Otters floating on their backs. Crackido. Yeah, that was always really cool to see. They were always floating in their backs whenever I went to that Point Lobos, but I don't know if I saw them like cracking open those crustaceans, yeah, like clams and stuff like that. Are you going to sell ArtFoamies? Horsey Girl, I've thought about that before, but I don't have like, if I sold the ArtFoamies myself, I would have to buy all new types of things like boxes for them. So I don't know. They just, they're all on the ArtFoamies website, and then they have, they're equipped to have, every size of things that they sell. So they have those like clamshell boxes for those, and yeah. And then my prices for shipping, I try to keep that as low as possible, but and it's all, my shopping cart is all based off of the weight, or not the weight, but the value of the things. So if someone ordered like one art foamy or something like that, I'd have to get a box, and I don't know, I'd be losing, it'd be costing me more to ship that thing out. So I just figured, art foamies, that's what they do, so they're all kind of equipped for that. So the art foamies, whatever storefront under my name is, what I mean. I figured that's the best place to pick those up. They know how to ship all that stuff out too, and it's not going to be like compressed or damaged in those boxes. Most of the stuff that I send out, goes out in envelopes, unless people are ordering wood-mounted versions of stamps. What was that there? If you make the snow light blue, put in the crevice. Yeah, that would be cool. The snow in the crevices. "3 acres on a lake out of town. Dogs were disappearing on farms." Yeah, those cougars or something, That's why I said that's the only thing I'm a little bit paranoid of. And like I said, I was mentioning this in a previous video, but I was going out in Joshua Tree National Park, and I'd often be hiking by myself out there, not on trails. I was doing everything all off trails and scrambling in the piles, and I found this year-round water source. It's on a map out there, but no one ever goes out there because it takes a little bit of scrambling and everything like that to get through these boulders, but it opens up into this area, and there was this year-round water source. And right around that time when there was reports and that whole story about those mountain bikers getting attacked by those mountain lion, I came across the water source. And then I went out there a couple weeks later with a couple friends to show them, and there were 2 sets of bighorn sheep horns right in there. And as I was walking to that water source, I was seeing this trail of like freshly, I don't know, whatever bones, because it had a little bit of like skin and blood on it still. Not from that day probably, but sometime in those 2 weeks that I'd been out there. It was like, oh my God, I'm never going out to that area, at least by myself again, because it was like the perfect like ambush zone, off the rocks, with something drinking water underneath it. So I don't know, a little bit of paranoid about that when I'm out and hiking around, even in the chaparral out here. So I'm usually, hiking around with trekking poles, and I'm always looking in back of me too, especially when my kid was small too. Retired vet tech. Oh, got it. That was your clinic recipe. Young Greyhound, not to go into this too deep, but did your recipe change over the years? You know what I mean? Where did that recipe change, like from whatever, or was that always the recipe that you went by? Like, I don't know how long you did that for, but I was just wondering. Yeah, because the you know what I mean? The what you'd always see like on TV shows and stuff like that, or movies. It was that tomato juice, Canadian geese in Calgary don't fly south. Yeah. Huh. Different patterns these days, huh? It neutralizes the enzymes that made the owner so bad. Yeah. Need to go back up there. Not that I'm going to have to be cleaning off a skunk spray off anything. I got to read that recipe again. It's interesting. Should mention to reduce the amount of peroxide if you have a black dog. Yeah, it's gonna bleach out their hair. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess you know, better they get their hair styled, you know, than to have that smell around there. Yeah, tomato. Yeah, used to be the go-to, huh? Chemists discovered the recipe serendipitously and shared it with the vet community because it can't be stored. Oh, yeah. Interesting. You have to stamp a little skunk right here. I don't have this little hair now. We can stamp a little snow hare in here. Mine is more of a jackrabbit for the desert series, but you know, hey, you got to use what you can. Yeah, use what you can use. All right, learning new stuff all the time in these live streams. Always fun to stamp with you all. Here's my third, whatever, composition in this series right here. I don't know. I might do one more after this, but I just wanted to see it in different scenarios like that. I always say it's a good exercise. If you've been a scenic stamper for a while or something like that, you know, if you're beginning scenic stamper, you might get bored. Hey, I want to do the same composition, you know, multiple times in different colors, but if you've been stamping for a while and you know you just feel like kind of having a kind of an interesting kind of a assignment, then you know you can do the same composition. You can make it go faster too. You can just stamp out the composition all at the same time. Just you know stamp out 4 of them or something like that, and it can represent the different seasons. Or you can do different times of day, you know, night, or different types of paper. Certainly, this is a piece of just some cheap, you know, blue cardstock. It's practically like construction paper. It's probably a better quality than that because I got a Kelly paper in their stationery section. But I don't know, something like this on the you know, the holographic paper would be kind of interesting. It would be kind of cool having those colors kind of in the background. This one's a piece of holographic cardstock. I would use the holographic printable vinyl sticker paper though for that. But something like that would be interesting. Maybe I'll do just a smaller version of this one on the holographic. And, you know, but it would be doing a lot of that white pigment ink on there and just using colored pencils. And believe it or not, that one's a pretty fast process too, doing it that way. Just, you know, because you're just using like white pigment ink and then coloring in colored pencils. You don't do all this layering, you know, with dye-based inks and alcohol inks and all that in there. So, and I don't really do too much, I don't think, not too much of the acrylic paint pen when I'm using those types of holographics too, because the holographics are already, you know, they're already kind of busy enough, you know, in terms of the background. So a lot of times I just don't do this amount of detailing on there because I'm almost kind of doing something to counter the loud kind of nature of these types of surfaces, you know. So, you know, you're just kind of doing a much more mellow application of things. But yeah, Jerry Arnell, an artist, showed me a picture of him sitting on a cliff ledge. He had no idea the mountain lion was just above. What? Someone took a picture of him and it just caught the mountain lion in the view like that? That's scary. Huh. You mix gallon water with about 2 ounces of douche. You can de-skunk your pet. For bigger pets, you'll need more wash. Huh. Wow. Keep that in mind, everyone. You learn, and this, the nice thing about this channel is you can learn how to layer your inks, but also defoul, your animals due to, skunk incident, all in the same live stream. I do find all this interesting, though. I always learn new things, and I love it. And someone always knows the answer on these live streams, too. It's like, what was the name of whatever, you know what I mean? Or what, And someone will always know. I was talking about in one of the live streams, they weren't in the live streams, but someone watched a video, and I kind of vaguely remember us discussing something, but we were talking about like kids shows, and she was telling me about the name of this thing that was in this show called Romper Room. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, we were talking about Romper Room, weren't we? All right, hope you have a great rest of evening. Oops. If you didn't check out this one right here, this one was a real fun one yesterday for the 4th of July right here with the fireworks in the sky like that same cabin right down here. But I really love these reflection cards right here. I haven't spray sealed this one yet, and but after I spray seal this, I'm going to add this right into this mix right here. But see, you can be this little character with a great view of the fireworks in there. So, all right, folks, have a great rest of evening, and hope to see you on the next live stream.